You're shaken up, your car is wrecked, and before the adrenaline even wears off, you're already making decisions that can hurt your case. Maybe you've already said something just to be polite, or you've posted a photo without thinking twice. My name is Max the Axe, the gold standard in personal injury, and far too often I've seen car accident claims completely fall apart in the first 24 hours because nobody told the car accident victim what not to do. In this video, I will walk you through 3 of the most common mistakes that I see with car accident claims, things that will cost you thousands of dollars or may even wreck your case altogether. Watch this video so that you can protect your rights, avoid those traps set by the insurance companies, and ensure that you get full recovery, both physically and financially. Don't leave the scene, even if you think it's minor. Let's start with the first thing that you absolutely should never do after a car accident in Texas. Do not leave the scene or drive away, even if you think that the car accident is minor. I see this mistake happen far more often than I'd like to admit. Maybe you're late for work, you've got other things going on, and you feel like maybe we'll just handle things between us. But leaving the scene can land you into some serious hot water. Texas law is crystal clear on this. It doesn't matter if it's a fender bender or a light scratch, you have to exchange information and check on everyone who's involved. If it turns out that someone is hurt and you leave the scene, you could be facing felony charges. Even if it's just minor property damage, leaving the scene without exchanging your name and insurance information is still a crime. The law does not care if you were embarrassed, ashamed, or you didn't think it was that big of a deal. Let me give you a real-world example. I had a client who was a college student here in Houston, and after a fender bender where he lightly tapped the bumper of another car, he thought that they just waved it off and he can leave the scene without any exchanging of information. Each of the drivers waved at each other, and it seemed like it wasn't that big of a deal, there wasn't that much damage, so he took off. But after he left, the other driver called the police, and that driver told the police that the college student had fled the scene after causing a crash. The other driver had taken down the college student's license plate information, so he was able to give that to the police officer for a further investigation. The college student ended up facing a Class B misdemeanor for causing a crash and leaving the scene. He also had problems with his insurance company, who raised his rates because they found out about the crash from the police report. Even if you're worried about your insurance rates going up, it's just not worth the risk. If the insurance company finds out about it from someone else and not from you, you're in a lot more trouble than if you were honest and told them about what happened. Failing to stop and exchange information can cause way more damage than stopping and doing the right thing, even if you're in a rush. Even if you think that nobody saw you or the other driver seems okay with you leaving, don't do it. Stop, exchange information, do the right thing, because you never know what can happen later. In one moment, you think everything's fine, it's not a big deal, and the next, you're facing criminal charges. So, after any accident in Texas, even if it's small, always stop, exchange information, and make sure the other driver is okay. If you suspect any injury or property damage greater than $1,000, you are required to call the police as well. In general, it's always better to have a police report to back up everything you're saying. I know it might take a while, but it's just not worth the risk. Number 2, don't admit fault, even if you think that you caused it. This is a big one. In the moments after the crash, it's natural to feel rattled and to say things that you don't necessarily mean. Maybe you're just trying to be polite, saying things like, "I'm so sorry, I don't even know what happened." Or maybe you think that it was genuinely your fault. But here's the thing. Whatever you say in the moment can always be used against you later. Even a polite apology, as saying something like, "I'm so sorry that this happened," can be twisted around later and used against you as an admission of guilt. Under Texas law, fault in a car accident is not always obvious right away. The other driver may have been speeding, running a red light, or not paying attention. Some things are just too early to make the call unless it's truly obvious. You may find out later that your car slipped on a hazard in the road caused by another driver. But regardless, the bottom line is you don't always have all of the facts after a crash. That's what the police officer's investigation is for. Let me give you a real-world example. A client of mine, a young woman from Dallas, rear-ended an SUV in slow traffic. She immediately apologized, thinking that it was her fault. But the dash cam showed later that the other driver actually changed lanes right in front of her and slammed on their brakes, causing the crash. Because she had already apologized at the scene, the insurance company tried to pin the blame on her. We were eventually able to clear this liability thing up with the dashcam footage, but it was a lot harder than it needed to be. So what should you say? Stick to the facts. Exchange contact information, names, and insurance info. If the police get involved, always answer their questions honestly, but don't guess or say things that you're not really sure about. Don't ever make determinations about who's at fault, because that's not what your job is. That's what the police officer and eventually the jury is for. There's a time and place for apologies in life, but this is not the right place. Let the evidence speak for itself. One more thing. After the accident, an insurance company might call you asking you to give a recorded statement about exactly what happened in the crash. You are under no legal obligation to do this recorded statement without talking to a lawyer first. If you're not sure, it's okay to tell them, "I'm just getting all the facts, I'll get back to you." Number 3, don't skip the medical care, even if you feel mostly fine. The third thing that you absolutely must not do after a car accident: don't delay or refuse medical care, even if you're feeling mostly okay. This one trips people up more than almost any other mistake that I see. Right after a crash, your adrenaline is pumping, and the adrenaline in your body prevents you from feeling the injuries that you may have sustained in the car accident. You might feel mostly okay, a little sore, a little tight, a little strained, but for the most part, you feel okay. Over time, these symptoms can worsen as the adrenaline goes down. So here's the problem. Some injuries only show up hours or days later after a car accident. Whiplash, concussions, back injuries, you might not notice these things at first, or they might seem minor, and hopefully they'll go away with time. However, these symptoms can get worse very fast. If you wait too long to see the doctor, 2 things can happen. 1, the injury will get worse without getting the necessary medical treatment or medications. But number 2, and most importantly, the insurance company will use it against you. The insurance company will argue that because you didn't rush to the emergency room immediately after the accident, that means that you're not that hurt, or your pain was caused by something else. Let's look at a story from a client from San Antonio. As he was driving on I-35, he was rear-ended by another driver. As he was waiting around from the police, he felt the pain, but it was only minor. He told the police officer that he was fine. He didn't need any medical care. And that night, he took it easy, he slept, and hoped that it would go away. The next morning, the pain was much worse. He could feel throbbing pain in his lower back and his neck. He ended up going to the emergency room the morning after the crash. But because it was about a 24-hour delay from the crash to the first doctor's visit, the insurance company tried to use that against him, saying that maybe something else happened overnight or the next morning that actually caused his injuries. It took months of additional evidence to the insurance company for them to finally recognize the seriousness of my client's injuries. In Texas, the number one thing insurance companies look for are gaps in treatment, specifically the time between the crash and your first doctor's visit. The longer you wait, the harder it can be to prove that the injuries came from the crash and not from something else. The insurance company may even deny your claim entirely. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't have a claim if you've waited several days or weeks to see a doctor. It just means that it'll be harder. I've had plenty of cases where weeks go by after the crash before the client finally decides to go to the doctor's office. We ended up doing well in those cases, but it was a lot harder than it needed to be. But the moral of the story is, after any accident, even if you feel just a little bit off, a little tightness, a little soreness, something that wasn't there before the crash, it's important to get to the doctor as soon as possible. Don't try to tough it out. Don't try to self-diagnose. And don't think that just because you didn't leave in an ambulance, that means that you're not hurt. You can go to an urgent care, the emergency room, or your primary care physician. Explain to the doctor that you were just in a car accident, and it's important to explain to them every bit of your symptoms, not just the major ones. It's important to document each and every place on your body that feels different from the crash, because sometimes even those minor injuries are the ones that are permanent and that you have to deal with for the rest of your life. Certain injuries might heal, others might stick around. So it's always the best idea to tell the doctor each and every part of your body that feels different after the crash. This also helps create the necessary medical documentation to help prove your injuries to the insurance company. If you have children in the car, it's always a good idea to get them checked out as well. Children may have difficulty in describing how their body feels differently after the crash, minor things like tightness or soreness might not seem like a big deal to them. It's always a good idea to get a full physical examination from a doctor to see if anything's different. And remember, even if you don't have health insurance, there are options for you. Many doctors will work with you and wait to collect their medical bills until after the case is over. Don't let the concerns about the cost of the medical care stop you from getting the treatment that you need to feel better. A quick recap: protecting yourself in Texas. Let's quickly run through those 3 things that you absolutely must never do after a car accident in Texas. Number 1, never leave the scene, no matter how minor the accident may seem. Number 2, don't admit fault, especially if you don't have all the facts and you're not exactly sure what happened. Number 3, don't skip your medical care, even if you feel mostly fine or you think your injuries will heal on their own. Doing any of these 3 things can help endanger your case, your health, and your ability to recover compensation from the insurance company. I've seen way too many good people lose out on what they deserve because of these simple mistakes made in those stressful minutes after a car accident. So remember, stay calm, stay at the scene, stick to the facts, and always get checked out by a doctor. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's okay. You can always talk to a lawyer to help guide you through the process. What's next? Protect yourself even further. Now, you might be wondering, do I still have to report this car accident to my insurance company even if I wasn't at fault? That's a good question, and a lot of people get tripped up by this. The answer can make a big difference to your case and your wallet here in Texas. So don't miss my next video. Do I have to report my car accident to my insurance company even if it wasn't my fault? It's packed with answers that you need to avoid costly mistakes and protect your rights. Click over and give it a watch. You'll be glad you did. I'll see you over there.